The massive observation deck of the Starliner Aurora's Edge was quieter than usual. Crew members and passengers moved with cautious hesitation, eyes flicking nervously toward a single figure seated near the window, her presence commanding a strange, almost uncomfortable attention. She wasn't a criminal, nor an enemy, at least not officially, yet something about her made people instinctively shift seats, clutch their belongings a little tighter, and murmur quietly amongst themselves. She was tall, with flowing silver hair that shimmered faintly even under the artificial lights, and eyes that seemed to hold a galaxy within them, an endless swirl of colors that made the unprepared look away. Her uniform, unlike any standard fleet issue, was elegantly minimal, yet exuded authority. Everyone avoided her seat, leaving it empty, as though proximity to her carried an invisible risk. The young human pilot, Rowan, entered the deck with a light step, the familiar hum of his flight suit resonating softly as he moved. He had heard the rumors. Every pilot had that the mysterious alien woman brought discomfort to anyone who sat near her, that whispers seemed to follow her, that even senior officers found themselves uneasy in her presence. But Rowan had never been one to follow the crowd, where caution overshadowed curiosity for most. His curiosity burned brighter than his fear. He spotted her instantly. The rest of the observation deck seemed frozen in muted panic around her, yet she sat calmly, eyes focused on the stars beyond the viewport. Rowan's instincts told him to look away, but he forced himself to take a step closer, then another. Finally, he lowered himself into the empty chair beside her. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. A few heads turned sharply, jaws tightening. The crew exchanged anxious glances. The woman tilted her head slightly, as though measuring him, and Rowan felt the weight of her gaze, intense yet strangely unreadable. "You're human," she said, her voice smooth, melodic, and unhurried. Rowan nodded, trying to keep his tone light. "I am, and you are." She let a small smile play across her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Names are fleeting. Titles hold more weight." Rowan chuckled softly. "Then I'll call you. Mystery seems fitting." A pause. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. It was the smallest gesture, but it carried a quiet acknowledgement, a recognition that he was not like the others. The human pilot had always felt he belonged to a universe much larger than the narrow confines of military duty, and now, sitting beside her, he sensed that his intuition wasn't wrong. "Why are they avoiding me?" she asked, finally breaking the silence, her gaze still fixed on the stars. "They don't understand you," Rowan replied honestly. "They see something dangerous in what they don't understand." Her laugh was quiet, almost sad. "Dangerous, perhaps to them. I have brought peace to worlds, and yet fear follows me like a shadow. They see the past in my eyes, but not the present or the choice to change it." Rowan considered her words carefully. There was history there, layers of it, centuries perhaps, but she wasn't threatening him. Her presence wasn't aggressive, it was simply overwhelming. Impossible to ignore, a brilliance the human mind struggled to contain. The silence between them stretched comfortably. Rowan found himself studying her features, the way the soft lighting reflected off her skin, the subtle luminescence that hinted at her alien nature. He realized the rest of the deck, the nervous whispers, the avoidance, had less to do with fear of harm and more to do with, they are, the kind of awe that humbled people, made them feel small. "Why sit beside me?" she asked after a long pause, her voice carrying curiosity rather than accusation. "Because someone should," Rowan answered simply. "Someone needs to see that you're not a threat, that you're just like anyone else, except extraordinary." Her eyes flicked toward him, studying his face. A faint spark of interest appeared in the depths of her gaze. Most humans would not do this. They would cling to safety, to distance. Rowan shrugged. "I don't always do what's safe. Sometimes curiosity, sometimes decency, sometimes it's just common sense. Sitting alone in a room isn't always better than sharing it, even if people are scared of you." A quiet hum resonated through the observation deck as the engines shifted in rhythm. The stars streaked past the viewport as the Starliner glided through hyperspace lanes between systems. Rowan felt a strange comfort, the kind that came from trusting one's instincts even when the world doubted them. "You were brave," she said softly. "And perhaps foolish, maybe both," Rowan replied with a grin. "Foolish bravery has its uses, though." She turned her gaze back to the stars, her expression unreadable again. Yet this time it carried a glimmer of something Rowan couldn't name. Approval, perhaps, or curiosity returned. "I have watched humans for a long time," she admitted. "Most cannot see beyond survival instincts. Yet you look at things differently. You do not run." Rowan leaned back, letting the words settle between them. "Running doesn't solve much. Facing things, understanding them, that's how we grow. That's how humans survive, and sometimes, how they thrive." The woman remained silent for a long while, her eyes reflecting the distant light of exploding stars and distant suns. Rowan sensed she was measuring his words against eons of experience, weighing them, testing them. Finally, she spoke again, her voice almost wistful. "Perhaps there is hope. Then, perhaps humans are not as fragile as history has painted them to be." Rowan's smile widened. "Fragile, maybe, but strong too. Stronger than anyone expects." A subtle shift occurred in her posture, something imperceptible to anyone else in the room, but Rowan felt it. The weight of centuries of isolation, of fear and misunderstanding, seemed to lighten just a fraction. Sitting beside him, she no longer appeared as a figure to be avoided. She was simply present. The observation deck lights dimmed, adjusting to the glow of distant nebulae. Rowan noticed that as darkness embraced the room, the people around them slowly relaxed, some even inching back toward their own seats. The tension that had clung to the air like a heavy mist began to dissipate. One human crew member dared to glance in their direction, then another. None approached, yet the fear that had seemed insurmountable before had softened. "You see, humans are strange," she murmured almost to herself. "We speak of fear, but rarely of understanding. And yet, here you sit beside me, defying instinct. A tiny gesture, but it speaks volumes." Rowan shrugged again, unconcerned. "Small gestures can change everything. That's what history teaches, if you're willing to read it." She looked at him, and this time her smile reached her eyes. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps humans are capable of more than I gave them credit for." Minutes passed like hours as they sat together, watching the stars streak past in endless silver ribbons. Rowan felt a strange sense of kinship forming. Something deeper than words, beyond the conventions of species or rank. This was trust, the kind that defied centuries of fear and prejudice. Finally, she turned to him with a curiosity that seemed genuine, almost childlike. "You do not find out why?" Rowan considered for a moment. "Because fear isn't always useful. Sometimes it blinds you. Sometimes courage, quiet courage, not the kind that charges into battle, is the only way to truly understand someone. You're remarkable, yes, but not dangerous, not to me." A silence fell again, filled with unspoken understanding. Rowan felt that this moment, small as it seemed, might ripple through the galaxy in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Here, on this starliner, humanity's capacity for bravery, understanding, and connection had found its first small victory against fear. The woman's eyes softened. "Then, sit with me a while longer." Rowan inclined his head, a grin forming on his face. "I think I'll stay." And so they sat, side by side, as hyperspace carried them deeper into the unknown. Outside the viewport, the universe stretched endlessly, a canvas of possibilities. Inside, humanity through a single pilot had begun to bridge a gap that fear had long kept sealed. Around them, the observation deck slowly returned to life. Crew members, emboldened by Rowan's defiance of instinct, began to resume their duties. Whispers turned into quiet conversations, and though no one else dared sit beside her yet, the invisible barrier of avoidance had been cracked. Rowan looked at her once more, noting the subtle changes, the relaxed posture, the faint warmth in her gaze, the small acknowledgement that perhaps she was no longer alone in this journey. "Humans are strange," she said, almost in wonder, echoing the words she had spoken earlier. "Strange? Yes," Rowan replied. "But sometimes strange is exactly what the universe needs." The stars blurred past them, a cosmic river of light and possibility. And in that quiet moment, the galaxy seemed just a little smaller, a little more connected. One human pilot, seated beside an enigmatic alien, had proven that fear could be confronted, that courage could be quiet, and that even in the vastness of space, understanding was possible. No one would forget this starliner journey, not the human crew, not the alien woman, and not the universe that had begun to witness a subtle, yet profound, shift. And as Rowan sat there, watching her eyes reflect the endless cosmos, he knew that sometimes, the simplest act, sitting beside someone others feared, could change everything.